No, good afternoon. Welcome to our breakout session. I think people know me, I try to not write things down so much, but I had a lot to say. But I was having a conversation with Alexandria the other day, this morning, and I wanted to frame this. We're talking about conservation and restoration and water issues, and I wanted to thank everyone for coming out and try to frame the conversation, but something happened these last 2 weeks, the last week and a half, that kind of framed exactly where I think we need to go with this. I guess I was telling Alexandra, our leader pretty much got in front of the UN this week and told them that these climate change issues and these issues we're having with sustainability, they're just not true. And I also heard that in the same week where I found out that, I'm from here, but my home state is in my family's home state is in Louisiana. We're losing about a football field's worth of shoreline to rising water every hour. And I'm just glad that we still are in a place where we can sit down and have conversations like this with people who are interested and come about starting real change. And I think it starts with people having a conversation, being honest about where we are, what we need to do, and what we need to do as a people. So I think, I really thank everyone for coming out and showing us that you care, and we're going to try to see if we can answer some questions and ask some questions and get to the bottom of some tough solutions and some tough situations. Want to bring Adam up? I didn't introduce myself, did I? My name is Jason Starks with the Office of the People's Council. We've put on this event for you today. I'm a consumer outreach specialist, which means if we ever do get to the point where water becomes a crisis, and I think we want to be prepared for that if it does, they're going to call our office first. We do a lot of consumer related issues with DC Water, Pepco, Washington Gas. And we represent the consumers when they have problems. And I want to bring my colleague up here, Adam Carlesco.
And my name is Adam Carlesco. I'm an assistant people's counsel here at OPC. I'm the attorney who handles a lot of the, environmental related issues, climate related dockets before the Public Service Commission. I track federal regulations and how they would impact local DC regulation and law as it relates to water, electricity, and gas utility service. And I think to give a little bit of a context for OPC's role in this space is that under our kind of organic statute that gives us our authority to operate with, as a governmental agency, we are tasked with advocating before Public Service Commission, other agencies, et cetera, et cetera. And when making that advocacy, we have to consider not just reliability and cost of utility service, but we also have to consider public safety and conservation of environmental resources, including considering the impacts of a changing climate. And so with that, we pulled this panel together as trying to pull some of the minds operating in this space within the district to kind of give a little bit of, clarification as to what's happening, how we can start to prepare for the future, how we can mitigate costs going forward, and really kind of address, the underlying issues that come along with the changing climate and the cost that we will have in the district around those issues. And so we're going to start off by essentially giving introductions for each of our panel members, but this is meant to be a little bit more of a free-form conversation. So feel free at any time to raise your hand. We'll respond to questions the best we can. And with that, I wanted to turn it over to our first panelist to give kind of a rundown of who they are, what they do, and let it be open with it. You can run for 5 minutes or whatever, explaining your role, how you operate in the space, and some of the priorities that you have within your office and your role. And with that, I will pass this off.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Elledge. I'm the Director of Engineering and Technical Services at DC Water. I am here today to speak about our lead-free program. It's a significant effort kicked off in 2019 by our CEO, David L. Gaddis, who came out to the public and said, we want to replace all the lead service lines in the district. At that time, we didn't know exactly how many were there. We knew about how many there were. Today, we know we're going to replace about 41,157 lead service lines in the district. These are half-inch pipes that go from the road to the house, and it's a relatively small construction project as far as construction projects go, but there's 41,157 of them. So there's a lot of work and a lot of logistics. I think everybody in the room has a common goal of making sure that water is safe, that the water is healthy, that we are removing that source of lead from the water system. To date, out of that 41,157, we actually just last week celebrated our 10,000th replacement. So we're about 24% complete. So we're making pretty good progress. This year we're going to replace almost 3,000 lead service lines, and next year we're going to replace over about 4,000. The previous panel, for those of you who were in the room, talked a little bit about collaboration with other utilities, and I think there's something important for us to talk about with lead-free specifically, about collaboration with other utilities. We coordinate specifically with Washington Gas, for example, if they're getting ready to replace a gas line and we're getting ready to replace a water line or lead service lines, we ensure that we are coordinating those schedules so that we're out there digging in order. We'll replace our line, they'll replace their line, and then we'll have a coordinated pave so that we are saving that money. We're not paving those roads twice. And then we also do the same with DETA. If they're getting ready to replace their roadway, rebuild their roadway, we'll make sure we go in and replace the water line, the sewer line, whatever we need to do first so that there's less impact to the community. Those of you who, when we're on your street, we want to make sure and reduce that impact. The other thing that I want to highlight, for those of you who heard Councilmember Allen say you're here, I think the phrase he said was you're not normal. What I would say is I agree with that, but you're also advocates. And one of the things in the lead-free program that we need everybody's help with is getting people to sign up for this program. As a water utility, we can't enter a house. We can't go in and do construction. Even though we're just barely going inside the house, we can't do that without a homeowner agreement. And those of you who are here are educating yourselves on this, and many of you are already educated on what needs to happen with lead service lines. And advocating with your neighbors and getting everyone to sign up. We have a lot of people going door to door knocking and calling and texting and emailing to get folks to sign up. And it's a very critical program so that we can make sure we're removing that source of lead from our water system. So again, my name is William Elledge with DC Water and Director of Engineering and Technical Services. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Juana. I'm with the DC Department of Energy and Environment. I had a couple of visuals for my overview if we're able to pull those up. I work on what's called Sustainable DC, which is DC's sustainability plan. It is co-led by the Department of Energy and Environment, where I work, and the Office of Planning. That being said, since it's DC's sustainability plan, it's essentially the roadmap of all of district government. The most involved are 20+ agencies as to how we can meet our sustainability goals, which we define in these 3 areas of environment, equity, and economy. So how do we make sure current and future generations experience clean environment, benefit from our local green economy, and also have fair access and opportunity and advancement? And so what I wanted to share is that the sustainability plan does have a water section. It covers 13 different topics, including water, but also nature, waste, all these other items that relate to water, and climate as well. And so there's over 150 specific actions in the plan for district government to implement, and around 80% of those are underway. Around 15% of those are completed. And we publish a progress report every year as a form of accountability to show where we are on all those 150+ actions. And so one of the purposes of this plan that I see is that it is an accountability advocacy tool for community members to see how we are doing on our goals, and if we're not doing well, to make sure that you all communicate that and advocate for other changes so that we are meeting our goals. And so, yeah, we can also wanted to mention that on our website, sustainable.dc.gov, we have a couple of new features. So one of them is a data dashboard. So to answer a frequent question of, well, how is DC doing on sustainability? It's a very complex question to answer, and part of the answer is hopefully through this data dashboard, which brings together a bunch of sustainability-related data points. The water ones, for example, show what percentage of the area in the district has green infrastructure to help with managing our stormwater, and it has other benefits as well. Also, we have now a map of sustainability points of interest, which include features like large green roofs in the district, or commercial buildings and entities that participate in the RiverSmart program, which we'll hear about in a little bit. So it's a way to see what's going on in the district, what's around you, what sort of projects are really the real world implications of having sustainability goals. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Alexandra Campbell-Ferrari. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Water Security and Cooperation. I'm really just a water lawyer. So I started the CWSC about 10 years ago, and we focus on using the law to ensure that communities have access to drinking water and sanitation, and ultimately achieve water security internationally. So we do a lot of work with other countries, within our own country, at the national, state, and community level. So I kind of wanted to take a slightly different direction just because I am a DC resident, a proud DC resident. I was sharing earlier that I don't necessarily do a lot of work in DC other than as a resident. But I wanted to share some of the lessons I've learned working across the United States. And one of the watersheds that we work in is actually the Mississippi River watershed. And if you know, you may or you may not know, it actually covers 31 states of the United States. There are 10 states that are actually along the Mississippi River. But what's amazing is that we have $400 billion worth of economic goods that travel down it. We have 400 species of water, of birds and other flora and fauna that live within that watershed. It's an incredibly important resource, yet there's no regional cooperation. And the reason I share this story is because actually in this region, there is a lot of cooperation. And so I think that's a shining star in the future of watershed management, right? We don't often work together when it comes to protecting our water resources. And the Mississippi River, despite how big it is, despite the fact that it covers 31 states, there is no cooperation within that basin. And that's actually one of the projects that my organization is trying to work on, is creating that network of people, laws, and policies throughout that watershed. And a lot of that already exists in this watershed. There's just a lot of work to implement it. In the Mississippi River watershed, there's a lot of work to create, or we have a lot of work to do to create that basic kind of legal infrastructure and people infrastructure in order to implement something. I also wanted to share a few lessons learned again, throughout the work that we've done. One is that, as a lawyer, what I see is that our laws are not providing a sufficient enough foundation upon which to protect our water resources. So if you're concerned about PFAS, if you're concerned about endocrine disruptors, if you're concerned about our water quality and how that's impacting our drinking water, there's a lot of reason to be concerned. There's a lot more work we need to do to ensure that our laws create those protective mechanisms. Second is that climate change is real. Climate change is impacting our ability to provide these drinking water resources. So in the Mississippi River watershed, for example, there's saltwater intrusion in Louisiana. There's agricultural runoff, right? And it doesn't make anyone the villain. We're so quick to call somebody the villain because, they're creating this issue. They're not villain. They're not the villain. It's that we have to resolve these issues and work together in order to create those solutions, which again brings me back to that network and regional watershed level working together kind of theme. And then lastly, one of the things we don't, as people, but also as a sector, if I call the water kind of group a sector, realize that all of this is linked, right? We need water for almost everything that we do. So businesses, for our agriculture, for our national security, for our sanitation, for health and hygiene. We need water, but we don't legislate or manage our water resources with that in mind. And one of those things also comes with environmentalism, right? Environmentalism and protecting the environment protects our drinking water. So if we stop certain chemicals from getting in our water resources, we also protect our drinking water. So just wanted to provide a little bit of that kind of national scope. Thank you.
Well, thanks. That was a great segue. My name is Ariel Conti, and I work for the Watershed Protection Division at DC's Department of Energy and Environment. So I'm focused on DC's watershed, which is part of a larger watershed, the Chesapeake Bay, which is what you were referring to when you were talking about kind of this multi-jurisdictional cooperation that we have. Funding and laws and programming that are all helping clean the district waterways and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay. So, let's see. I want you all to envision a world, a DC, where you're able to jump in the Potomac and the Anacostia and go for a swim in the summertime, where you're able to go out on a fishing boat and catch fish and eat those fish from the Anacostia, where you're able to walk to a shaded park, where you're able to kayak through beautiful wetlands that are helping reduce flood and create more of a more flood resilient DC. So my department is helping to create that vision of the future here in DC. We do a lot of implementation work. Our job is to restore and protect DC's waterways by reducing stormwater runoff, improving water quality, and creating green spaces for DC, for folks who live, work, and play in DC. The way that we do that is like three main strategies. First is building and maintaining green infrastructure. Second is by restoring natural systems, so things like streams and forest patches in the district. And lastly, by educating and engaging community members in this process, or in these projects. So the first thing is green infrastructure. Green infrastructure helps reduce the quantity of stormwater runoff and increase the quality of stormwater runoff. So who's familiar with what stormwater is? Okay, so most folks in the room. Stormwater is when it rains or precipitates, that precipitation hits hard surface, so roofs and sidewalks and driveways. That rain runs downhill towards the storm drains. As it's doing that, it's picking up all sorts of pollutants, fertilizers, pet waste, sediment, and it's dumping that dirty water into our streams and rivers. Installing green infrastructure throughout the district helps slow that down so that water can infiltrate into the ground, and those plants can do a good job of uptaking the toxins and pollutants. And so, yeah, the Watershed Protection Division at DOEE is installing green infrastructure all over the district, on private property, on parks and schools, on national park land, on your streets, and that water is, or those projects are helping to increase the water quality of our waterways in DC. Another big thing we're doing is planting trees throughout the district. If you are a DC resident, you can get a free tree. Please, if you aren't familiar with this program, come talk to me afterwards. We're looking for more spaces for trees. The district has a goal of 40% tree canopy by 2032, and that's one of our sustainable DC goals. We are working hard to re-tree DC, help with cooling the air, providing shade during the summer, and helping with water quality. Trees are one of our best stormwater management tools. The other big thing we're doing are these natural system restorations. So stream restorations like in Watts Branch, in Pope Branch. We've got a big project coming up in Fort DuPont. We've done work in Hickey Run. All of these stream restoration projects help reestablish the natural habitat that was eroded over time because of development. And then the last thing is education and outreach. So we do a lot of work to educate the public about stormwater as an issue, about water quality as an issue in the district. There's lots of ways that you can get involved, from taking a boat ride on the Anacostia to getting involved in our citizen science programs to monitor water quality in the district. And so I hope that you all are involved in some way in cleaning the district's waterways, and if you're not, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about ways that you can get involved and how you can be part of cleaning the district's waterways.
Before you pass the mic.
Oh, happy to. Yeah.
The storm runoff.
Yeah.
All right. What you're planning, is it visible or invisible, and is it going to go on private property, or just how are you going to do that?
Great question. I'll repeat the question. What's your name?
Judy.
Judy asked, for green infrastructure, where are we planning on putting it? Is it on private property? Is it visible? Is it that's the question? So my office deals with voluntary projects. So people have elected to put that green infrastructure on their property. We've worked with them to do it. Oftentimes we want it to be visible because the idea here is that it's supposed to beautify your yard or that property, create pollinator habitat, while doing the good stormwater work that it does. So I guess the short answer is it depends on the property, and we're working directly with the property owners, so it wouldn't ever be a surprise.
Do you have a picture showing what it looks like?
Shoot. Do I have a picture showing what it looks like?
Yes.
If you come to the DOE table, I'm happy to show you pictures. I don't have any queued up here for this session, sorry.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jamani Overby. I serve as the DC Conservation Advocate with Nature Forward. I also serve as the DC lead with the Choose Clean Water Coalition. And I'm super excited about being able to share this panel discussion with everybody here, and thank you to OPC for having us. I have a short video that will play a little bit about Nature Forward, but a little bit about myself. I'm a fifth-generation Washingtonian by way of Prince George's County, and I work as a community advocate, an environmental justice advocate, so focusing on a lot of the intersectional justice issues that relate to the different things that are happening in our climate and how that impacts our residents and people that work, love, and enjoy DC. So I'll cue up the video and I'll share a little bit more about some ongoing projects that we have related to water quality as well as flood work.
Nature needs all of us, and all of us need nature. These truths are at the core of Nature Forward's mission to inspire residents of the greater Washington, D.C. region to appreciate, understand, and protect their natural environment through outdoor experiences, education, and advocacy. They are also part of our vision to create a larger and more diverse community of people who treasure the natural world and work to preserve it. Nature Forward is an environmental nonprofit based in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Our name, Nature Forward, is new, but we're actually one of the region's longest-running environmental organizations, dating back to 1897, when volunteers organized the Audubon Society of the District of Columbia. Back then, activists were focused on stopping the massive slaughter of birds for elaborate feathered hats. Advocacy, awareness campaigns, and education programs for adults and children helped awaken public interest that led to local and federal laws protecting birds. Today, Nature Forward's mission work extends beyond protecting birds to all aspects of nature, and we work to engage all people to enjoy, learn about, and protect nature. We strive to be a model of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility across our entire operation. Our conservation department, along with Nature Forward members and volunteers, not only pushes key legislative issues on climate at a local and federal level, but works heavily at a community level in Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia as well. Nature Forward offers education programs for people of all ages and abilities. Join us for guided nature walks and hikes, or register for one of our natural history courses. Our broad range of field trips, hands-on classes, and nature travel excursions are both fact-filled and fun. Nature Forward is located on a 40-acre peaceful oasis called Wooded Nature Sanctuary, located in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Our grounds are open to the public from dawn to dusk, every day of the year. Visit our accessible trails and gardens to immerse yourself in nature. For families with children, we invite you to check out our preschool, camp offerings, and our new nature play space. Join us as we build a community of curious learners who use their knowledge to protect the natural world. Because nature needs all of us, and all of us need nature.
That's a little bit about Nature Forward. If you have any questions about anything that was shared in that video, feel free to check out Douglas at our table on this side when you go out upstairs. But some of what I'm really proud of what I've been able to do within Nature Forward is that advocacy and outreach work is what I really focus on within the conservation department. And as the lead for the Choose Clean Water Coalition, we're really working toward creating a cleaner Chesapeake Bay through our waterways in DC. And that means advocating for certain laws, advocating for bills such as the bottle bill, advocating for restoration projects and making sure that there's a lot of community involvement and input into those process, but also outreach projects. Last year we completed a flooding workshop project, actually funded by Department of Energy and Environment, to provide workshops to residents on how to be more resilient against flooding in their homes. That means how they're going to manage what happens when they have floods, or how they can be more resilient as the community and really take action, as well as advocacy with it towards the DC Council. That project reached over 900 residents, which in only 6 months, which really shows how important it is and how many people are being impacted. And it focused in Ward 7 and 8, where most disfavored communities are most impacted by flooding. So that's a little bit of what Nature Forward does, and I look forward to sharing a little bit more over the course of our conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Great to be here with you all today. Shout out to OPC, Jason, Adam, for putting on the Water Summit. My name is Larry Martin. I chair the Water and Natural Places Committee with the DC chapter of Sierra Club. Our mission is pretty simple, but it's pretty vast. It's to enjoy, explore, and protect the earth. The DC chapter is active on a lot of things. I'm going to talk primarily about our water programs here today, but most all we do kind of does relate back to water in one way or another. I'm going to start with one of our more recent campaigns, and that was to include environmental objectives in the legislation that was passed for the redevelopment of RFK Stadium. You know, unfortunately, we actually didn't succeed in getting much of anything included into that. But it's not because we didn't try, and we worked with a lot of folks across the district to try and incorporate concerns about stormwater management, flood management, clean energy, waste management. The mayor really wasn't open to including those things. But, you know, we're not going to stop. We're going to develop a relationship with the commanders, and we're going to advocate on behalf of the environment with the commanders. We're sure that they're going to be receptive, and that we're going to advance a sustainable program so that the commanders, when they redevelop their stadium out at RFK, can be proud of their sustainable outcomes. So as many of you all are aware, we spent $1 billion, nearly $1 billion, probably when you consider everything, well over $1 billion on cleaning up the Anacostia River. We've put tunnels in out there. We have invested in cleaning up the sediment. We are cleaning up Kenilworth Park, which is an old landfill that leaches water through its trash into the Anacostia River. There's a lot going on. With that investment, we don't want to see RFK redevelopment just backtrack on all that we've done. So the significance of working with the commanders shouldn't be lost, and we're hoping that people are going to work with us in our campaign and our other folks in the community to advocate for that. Our main campaign today is the DC bottle bill. Yeah, shout out to Laura Nunn, who's been one of our leaders. The DC bottle bill is an intent to take the drinking water waste out of our river, off our streets, out of people's yards, and put it where it belongs, back into a productive, part of the refill economy. The bottle bill actually has a history in DC. Back in 1987, we launched the bottle bill. I was actually part of that campaign then. It didn't work out. I went to work for Councilmember Nadine Winter. She was representing Ward 6 at the time, and we passed the recycling bill. I helped to write that. The recycling bill has not succeeded in keeping a lot of this waste out of our streams and off our streets. The bottle bill is the next effort to try and finish what the recycling bill did not complete. And that's to, as I say, keep that waste off our streets and out of our streams. I've had firsthand experience cleaning up streams in the district. DC Sierra Club has been cleaning up a section of Watts Branch for the last 10 years, twice a year, spring and fall. In fact, our next cleanup is going to be this coming weekend. It's out at Kenilworth Park, so if anyone has any interest in coming out and joining us, there's information at our table. It's the 3RC table at the end of the hall over on this side of the exhibit space. Yeah, come on out and join us. We have a good time, and it's just one of the things that we hope the bottle bill will be able to fund through the refund activity that now the mayor is no longer funding over at the DC Department of Energy and Environment. We need to get funding for those programs, and the bottle bill will help provide for it. Sierra Club has also been a leading advocate for clean energy in the district. The connection to water, of course, is that with global warming, we're seeing heavier storms, we're seeing flooding, we're seeing sea level rise, which is going to lead to river rise in and around the district. Clean energy can help to reduce that. The district's not going to succeed all by itself, but we should be part of the solution, and we should be a leader in helping to reduce CO2 emissions and to address climate change. Sierra Club has also been working to keep the cost of water down in the district, but at the same time to contribute to the reduction of lead in our drinking water. Most folks don't have too much of a lead problem, but there are still probably a good 70,000 lead connections in the district through our drinking water supply system. We work with DC Water and we work with DOEE. We work with City Council to try and address the lead service line problem. We have a bill before the Committee on Energy and Environment, Charles Allen's committee, that we hope to move this session. We're not confident that it's going to add money to this, but we are confident that we can improve DC Water's efficiency in how these lead service lines are replaced. So anyway, we've got a lot going on to protect the environment in the District of Columbia. Opportunities for volunteers, any which way you look. Come on by our table. We're happy to plug you into some of our initiatives. Thank you.
And with that, we'll kind of turn it over to questions, which We'll kind of jump around as to whoever feels kind of most impassioned to answer. So the first one that we had was, what are the most pressing concerns for water quality in DC currently? There are a lot of threats at a larger level of, lead contamination, PFAS, stormwater runoff, et cetera. And how do you prioritize solutions? And this can be for anyone who, be it government or the NGO sector.
Do you want us to come up here or just take the microphone? Oh, okay. So, as we've learned in the last budget cycle, the way these issues get prioritized is in the budget. They're all important. We care about all of them. We want to manage flooding. We want to manage stormwater runoff. We want to manage lead in our drinking water. We've got problems with PFAS and other contaminants coming off of Blue Plains. The way we deal with these things is we get them funded so that these programs can get support. Your money talks. Talk to your council members. Make your opinions known. What are your concerns? What are your priorities? If you have a lead service line, or if you don't know if you have a lead service line, that may be your priority. If you have flooding in your community, that may be your priority. They're all priorities. How they get ranked is really ultimately a budget exercise in DC, it seems like. Anybody else? Yeah.
I guess thank you for that, saying what I can't say. The other thing that, I come from a stormwater management space, so I'm going to be talking about that. But, one of the biggest threats to our waterways is development upstream. And so there is a lot that we can do here in the district. And if you have friends or family who live in Montgomery County or jurisdictions that are upstream from us, redevelopment projects or development projects in those areas can greatly affect the quality of water here in the district. I see a hand up.
How into it is the program to change the lead piping to copper piping? How far along is that? Has it already finished, or is it underway, or where does it stand?
So this is William Elledge with DC Water. I can speak to the lead program. We're about 24% complete so far. There's about 41,000 that we estimate based on our modeling. And just last week we replaced our 10,000. So we're a quarter of the way through. And appreciate, Larry, your words as well. One of the most important things that folks can do to help us get to that finish line is if you don't know if your house has a lead service line, on our website you can type in your address and you can find out what material type it is. DCwater.com. We have a page dedicated to lead, so /lead, and there you can scroll to the map, you can type in your address, and you'll find out if you have a lead line or not. And right there on that same page, you can also sign the agreement that allows us to go into your home and do that portion of the lead service line replacement, which is we have to have that before we can enter the premises and do any of that work.
What date do you think it's going to be done?
We are exactly on track to be in compliance with the LCRI as the lead and copper rule improvements 2037. We're replacing about 4,000 a year.
Thank you. Hello. I have the mic. Hi, my name is Sheila Tyson. I specifically want to talk about creeks. My daughter lives in Ward 7 in my grandmother's old house, so this is something I've noticed over the years. The creeks that run off of Nanny Helen Burroughs and Division Avenue, I've never seen that creek clean. All those creeks that run from Kilnerworth, all of them are dirty. It's trash. Never seen it clean. What's the status of the creeks that are primarily in black neighborhoods? River Terrace, Deanwood, Kilnerworth. Y'all looking at me like, do you know what I'm talking about? Well, let's talk about it.
Do people want to hear from you again, or do you want to take it?
Definitely has something to say too.
I want to hear the truth about the creeks in DC.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. But I also want to add, A friend of mine just sent me a picture from, where the old mill is on Rock Creek. There's a
Yes.
dam there. That's, I believe, in Ward 3. You would not believe the amount of plastic bottle trash that was just rolling around in the water underneath the dam. It just kind of collects there. So it's not just a problem over on the Anacostia. But I did want to say again, we have a cleanup, Sierra Club and Anacostia Riverkeeper, and some of the schools in DC are actually participating with us this year. We have a cleanup over on the Watts branch, which is right at the end of Burroughs Avenue. And so, we do what we can as volunteers to help keep the creeks clean. But, with folks continuing to just drop trash in their yards, or on
Yeah.
the street, it runs off into the creek. And by the way, it doesn't stop there, ends up in the Potomac River, and then it's down the
Yes.
Chesapeake. So, yeah, it all runs downstream, right? The bottle bill, which is going to have a hearing before the City Council this Wednesday, is an effort to help control some of that waste. You can't control everything with the bottle bill, but we've been doing these cleanups for about 10 years now, and we check what we're collecting. We weigh it, and we kind of like figure out where's all this stuff coming from. There used to be a lot of plastic bags in the streams. There's not as many plastic bags anymore because you've got that 5-cent fee at the grocery stores, and people are a little more careful with their plastic bags, or they use reusable ones, right? But now, if we can pass the bottle bill, that'll keep bottles at least out of the streams, and they are the #1 segment of our trash by volume, not by weight, but by volume, that we're taking out of the streams now. So I hope you all will come out for the bottle bill. As I say, there's a hearing on Wednesday. Contact your council members, let them know that you want to see that bottle bill passed.
I think we need to educate the public a little bit more, because I've seen people walk down Division Avenue, throw things in the creek. It's a habit. People don't realize how that relates to what we're talking about, water quality. So we need to talk more about education in terms of dropping things in the creek.
I'll just add that the city has, as part of their Adopt program, through the Office of the Clean City, there is the same way you adopt a block in your neighborhood, you can also adopt a stream in your neighborhood and organize cleanups like the ones that Larry talked about once a quarter or twice a year. So there are programs, and they'll provide you with all the materials, and then we find that as a really great opportunity to educate people about the issue, about what's being tossed into the streams. But you can adopt your block, you can adopt a park, you can adopt your stream, and get involved. You can reach out to the Office of the Clean City.
I want to add, yes, I think what's very important about what you stated is that education piece in different communities. And as I mentioned before, Nature Forward was working on this flooding grant that was bringing flood education workshops to community members. But a big piece of that was that flooding 101, and how can that be mitigated? There's a lot of green infrastructure and stormwater solutions that are already embedded in actually Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue that people don't tend to recognize or know. And they might have a little bit of greenery around it and a small fence, but that is meant to help with our stormwater runoff. And so a part of those programs and a part of those workshops are for people to learn about their impact of littering or learn about the impact of pollution and what that really does for their community. I gave a workshop at the Francois Center with about 15 community members, and I said, how many people litter? And they all raised their hands. And I didn't shame them for it, but sometimes people don't really understand that how impactful that is to not only the beauty of your community, but also to the rivers and to why people are experiencing flooding. So if you're interested in some more of those workshops, we are actually going to be able to provide more of those in this upcoming year through more funding and continue to expand that program. But primarily we focus in Wards 7 and 8, and this year also expanding to 5 and 6 as well.
The one other thing I'll add is we, just to add to the outrage also, we had a program installing and maintaining trash traps all across a number of our watersheds, but primarily in the Anacostia watershed. And those trash traps were basically located at outfalls. So if trash was coming out of a pipe, it was getting caught in these trash traps and not going into the river, the tributary. With our budget cuts next year, that program has been that program has ended. So we're no longer able to install anymore or maintain the trash traps that we have. We're hoping to be able to bring that back in next year, but it is one of those defenses against litter in our streams, kind of the last line of defense that was cut in our last budget. So.
One other piece of information to add to the mix is there is a community member effort to test water quality all around the district. And as part of that sustainable DC data dashboard I mentioned, you can see at the citywide level what percentage of the samples pass what is defined as swimmability criteria. And there's a more detailed report that comes from that the Department of Energy and Environment publishes, where you can see for the various waterways, I think it's a great visual, this little pie chart with a portion of it green, a portion of it red, to see what percentage of the time the water quality samples at that location pass swimmability criteria. And I think you might be surprised at the percentage of times that some of those points pass. So if you want to dig a little deeper, I would recommend searching for Department of Energy and Environment water quality report to find that.
So I have the microphone here, sorry, and I've been kind of waiting a long time. I had sort of a follow-on question that is part of what you're talking about right now. I'm a resident in Ward 5. I've worked in agroecology for 30 years, and mostly in developing countries, actually, mostly across sub-Saharan Africa and Haiti. And so my question is, what are we doing to work with schools at this point? Because so much of environmental change historically has come from kids learning at school and bringing it home to their families, because the families, the adults may or may not either be interested, they may not have time to care. You know, people, particularly lower income neighborhoods, have much bigger fish to fry than whether they dropped a bottle on the highway on the way home. You know, and there are a lot of correlations statistically about where you're going to find the most trash. And it's not for lack of caring. It is sometimes a lack of awareness. And I asked a woman once, and she said, well, if I litter, I'm creating a job for somebody to clean it up. I swear that's what she said. And she was a lower income person, and so our thought processes are just different. And so bringing it back to the question and, you know, the cleanup of the streams, and it's not necessarily about the cleanup, it's about get people to stop polluting in the first place, get people to stop littering and contaminating and whatnot in the first place. So how can we, or are we, reaching out to students and younger people to bring that information up and have them bleed it into their communities and their households and their families?
So to start it and answer, one of the agencies that's not represented up here is the Office of State Superintendent of Education, which goes by OSSI. And they lead up an environmental literacy program. And they also report out every 3 years on the activities on environmental literacy in the district. And there's a lot that goes into, and the Department of Energy and Environment and other agencies are a part of that effort as well through various activities. Just this past Saturday, we held Kingman Island Day, which was a family-oriented event with lots of environmental education activities on Kingman Island. In the schools, there's lots of initiatives from school gardens to farm field trips to students going out to the annual Anacostia Youth Environmental Summit, and so one thing we can measure in that space is the percentage of schools that offer some type of environmental education programming. And so if they do one of those activities, it gets counted as they're doing an environmental education activity. And as of the last count, 84% of public and public charter schools in the district offered some type of environmental education activity. That does not measure the students reached or the impact or outcomes, but there's certainly lots of environmental education activities ongoing.
Environmental in general, right? So we're talking about stop polluting, you know, that bleeds in so many other topics that we're all discussing. I mean, I remember back in the 70s, I look around the room, I know some people here will remember on television the Native American crying, saying, please don't pollute, you know, as the trash went by his feet on the highway. And it was hugely effective. And did we give up? Did we stop doing that kind of program? Because we, as the woman said earlier, we see the trash in the creeks and on the roadsides and pretty much everywhere you look. And it's not because you guys aren't cleaning it up fast enough, it's because the citizens are delivering it too fast or too much.
I can just share a quick, a story that really echoes, I think, the sentiments that you have in the Mississippi River watershed. We're working with a number of mayors up and down the Mississippi River, and one of the things that the mayors have consistently told me, who tend to be somewhere in the bracket of 50 to 60 years old, is that when they were growing up, there were environmental classes. They felt much more connected to the river. The river looked very different. They could recreate, they fished there. They have all these stories that they share with us. And they actually specifically told me that the children today don't have that connection to the river. In fact, depending on where you live, in which state you live in Louisiana, you're disconnected by a levee, right? So the levee actually shuts off your being able to visibly see the Mississippi River. Or in fact, the Mississippi River reflects a threat. I don't think while the story is different in the Mississippi River, I actually think it reflects similarly to what I've heard here, right? The fact that it's not safe to fish or to recreate in the Anacostia. It creates a fear with people, right? People disconnect from the river. They're not connected. They can't recreate, so they don't think about it. They don't care about it. They don't understand it. And I see that similar kind of story happening in the Mississippi River. So one of the things that we've done is starting to work with mayors to develop programs, right, to reconceive of, well, how can they reintroduce that experience that they had in the 70s or 80s when they were growing up to the students of today. So if it's a class that you mentioned, if it's a weekend program where they can canoe on the Mississippi River, where it's some kind of hike where they can learn about the Mississippi River, right? Something that reconnects students and young people with it, but even with their parents, right? You want adults to reconnect with the river. And I'll add one thing. You know, we focus on youth, which is phenomenal. And I agree that a lot of these programs, you know, you start as a kid. I remember coming home and sharing those stories with my parents. But adults also, we vote. We have the right to vote, right? So one of the important things, when we re-engage adults in this, we can get them to vote for people who care about the river, who talk about the Potomac and the Anacostia and say, here's what we have to do with the river, here's how we protect. So some kind of shared programming is, I think, important on both of those fronts. But just wanted to share that as kind of an echo of what you're seeing and experiencing.
I'll just add one more thing to that as it relates to our leadership. And in our first proposed budget this year for DC, there was no funding for meaningful watershed education experiences at all. So when you don't have a leader that values and prioritizes the youth in their understanding of climate, that is an issue. And so a lot of advocates, including Larry, and other nonprofit organizations really work to make sure that that funding was restored. So I think funding is one of an issue, but there's a lot of environmental organizations in DC that are working directly with youth, that have great partnerships with universities such as UDC. I'll shout out to the Green Scheme, who is one of our partners in the flooding work that we're doing. And they actually focus on urban agriculture, but We did a program with them called Ward 8 Water Watchers that has now expanded to Ward Water Watchers all over the city. And then with the new program, integrating flood education, I was not in that video of Nature Forward is our program called Green Kids, which we have educators that go into the school system each year and make sure that they give a curriculum to, I believe, fourth graders. So there are organizations that are definitely doing that work and being very intentional about incorporating the youth into this movement and understanding that it needs to be very multi-generational. But we definitely need funding to do that work, funding from our funding for our government agencies to work in tandem with us to make sure that we're getting those programs and that literacy out to not only those students that will then go back and say, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to move and make sure that you pick up your litter. I truly believe the kids will be all right because they have this understanding and they don't have these developed habits that are deeply enriched into them already. But they will hold their parents accountable or their guardians accountable at some point.
And I would like to add, as an OPC representative, that last year we started outreach to schools within the area. So we hosted students from Banneker and Anacostia at OPC's office. We had a panel of speakers, including, I believe, Commissioner Trabue came as well. And we talked to them about the basics of utility service and environmental aspects and issues in the district. And one of the things that the students identified was litter in their neighborhood. And so we worked with them of, like, how do you structure a community organizing campaign? After that, how do you advocate before governmental officials? And kind of walk them through the basics of advocacy, since that is, we are educate and advocate is OPC's kind of tagline. So it's something that we are starting to do more, and come next April, we will be holding a similar summit to this that's focused on youth advocacy as well. So we're trying to do our own work in this space as well.
Okay, second question. With flooding and extreme rainfall increasing, what resilient strategies should be prioritized to protect the most vulnerable neighborhoods, like river flooding near Riverview Terrace and/or interior flooding in areas like Rhode Island Avenue? And just real quick before we answer that question, Adam and I specifically chose pretty much everyone on this panel. And there's a wide variety of people and missions that they have, and we chose that for a specific reason. When we say, what are they going to do? When is X, Y, Z going to happen? We are they. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? The people in this room, we are the cavalry that we say, where are they? We are the ones, just look around, we are going to have to do this. People who are environmentally conscious are going to have to step up and do their part. Okay, there's no one's coming. Okay, you have help up here on the stage. You can call OPC, but everyone has to get engaged if we're going to do what we're supposed to do for this planet. That's why we're here. Anyone want to answer the second question? Repeat it, maybe? I said a lot. Yeah. Okay. With flooding and extreme rainfall increasing, what resilient strategies should be prioritized to protect the most vulnerable neighborhoods?
I think we talked a little bit about DC Water's work with gray infrastructure, these large tunnels that are being built throughout the district to help with that interior flooding on Rhode Island Avenue, for example. Those are huge investments and huge investments that you all are making as ratepayers for your DC water bill. Those projects are incredibly important when it comes to interior flooding. They're big, expensive infrastructure projects. One of the biggest ROIs, if you will, return on investment when it comes to when it comes to flooding is planting trees. It's one of the cheapest options, it's one of the easiest things to do, and it's one of the things that has the biggest effect on stormwater management and flooding and flood resilience in the long term. If there's nothing else you can do, you can plant a tree. And so, yeah, when I've talked to folks about easy solutions, tree plantings is usually the one I go to. Flood resilience. If anybody came up and visited my table over here, we have a program at DOEE called RiverSmart Homes. It's an opportunity for residents to get a free assessment of their home and see what projects they can install to help with flood resilience, help reduce flood risk on their property. And so I would say that the continuation of funding that program would be amazing in terms of helping our most vulnerable residents with direct impacts on the resource that is building equity for them and their future. That's not a totally complete answer, but
I'll add a little to that. And DC has some really great programs, RiverSmart Homes, RiverSmart Communities, FloodSmart Homes, FloodSmart Communities, and the funding was also recently just cut. So I think what's really a common theme is that the funding for resilience is not really being invested anymore into our communities, into vulnerable communities that, or what a lot of other people in environmental justice space call disfavored communities. So I think we see a big issue with budget, but tree planting is an easy solution. But I think what we also see in communities of color is the recovery process from flooding. It's more than just like that resilience piece, but how do you recover? And what is really difficult is for somebody to pay for flood insurance, or for somebody to then take care of all of the things that happen after you have a flood that can result, I think, up to $30,000 in damages. I think with 1 inch of flooding can be up to $30,000 in damages. That includes mold, and other things that can happen in your home that impact your health. So I'm saying this as it's all of these things that are a culmination that people experience when they have flooding, but what we need and what we continue to do is advocate for that funding to be, for residents to be able to not only apply and see what upgrades can be made to their home, but for there to be rebates or for them to be incentives for them to actually follow through with those projects to make them less susceptible to flooding in their communities.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Moore. I'm with DC Water. I just wanted to reiterate about our investments and what we're doing regarding flooding and other things such as combined sewer overflows. You mentioned earlier the tunnels that we've been working with, things like the Northeast Boundary Tunnel, where that's reduced flooding in the Rhode Island Avenue and those areas. We've built a series of tunnels, including our Anacostia River Tunnel, the Potomac. We're working on the Potomac River Tunnel. Those are designed to help to relieve some of the combined sewer overflows, which is when we get too much rain, and in parts of the system we have a combined sewer system where it's stormwater as well as wastewater. And when we have serious rain events, we've had combined sewer overflows, but with these tunnels, we've been able to reduce that about 96% of those combined sewer overflows, because we have these massive tunnels where we're able to store that surge of water and then treat that through Blue Plains later. We are just starting the Potomac River Tunnel, which is the third of the tunnels, and that will be the final tunnel that we're developing to assist with that process and to prevent those overflows, as well as facilitate some of that flood relief that we talked about. I just wanted to make sure to reiterate some of the efforts that DC Water is doing with, of course, the Clean Rivers funding that you see on your water bill every month. That is actually going to some serious infrastructure development to mitigate those things like the flooding and the sewer overflows, and that in effect helps to clean up the Anacostia River as well as Potomac River, because we're not discharging in those massive rain events, we're not discharging sewage into Rock Creek or into the river. So DC Water is definitely making infrastructure investments to reduce those things and to help the environment. So just wanted to make sure to share that.
Taking the mic now because before somebody else comes in, I've been waiting. Anyway, and by this time I've accumulated many questions, but I'll just go to one, which is maintenance. And I've been involved with trees all my life, and I'm very actively involved in my own property and the neighbors with maintenance of trees. I'm in a relatively wealthy area. Many of my neighbors cannot afford to maintain their trees, and it's a relatively wealthy area. And I think what's not talked about in terms of trees is how much it costs to maintain a big tree. So it's very well to plant them, that's easy, they're little, but they get big. And they overhang property, they overhang other people's property, they cost a bundle to prune. And so it's not so easy for people to have a tree. And you think of kittens and how cute they are when they're little. And it's the same thing with trees, and they can cause a hell of a lot of incredibly expensive damage. And with a quick storm. So we all know that, but we don't factor that into affordability. So it would be wonderful if there could be, if Casey Trees or somebody could start a fund for maintaining trees on people's private property. Because I think I really think it's almost maybe not a total favor to plant a tree for free if you're giving it to people who can't afford to maintain them. So I just wanted to put that one into the pot. So I don't think it's an easy solution at all. Thank you.
Okay. If we don't have any further comment on that, I think that ties in a little bit to the next question that I had kind of in the lineup, in that with a lot of the development, we were talking about the tunneling system to manage stormwater, and the CREAC charge, the Clean Rivers Initiative charge. How do we make sure that these very massive investments, these tunnel systems, over $1 billion, how do we make sure that this doesn't impact rates in a way that kind of disproportionately burdens low-income households in the district?
Did you want us to say something? I can't say about how it influences the rates. I know we try to be good stewards with the money that we receive and the money that our customers provide to us. We hope that the value of what we are doing for the environment and for the citizens, we hope that you understand that and recognize the value in these tunnels and these, the contributions to environmental improvement that things like reducing combined sewer overflows helps to eliminate. I mean, those are serious environmental issues, and if we're going to do things like clean up the Anacostia and clean up the Potomac, those things require a big investment. So we will be good stewards with your money. We will work to use that money to improve the environment and to improve the city for everyone. And so that's all I can say about it. I know we try to be good stewards, and we just don't want to take your money willy-nilly, but we actually are putting that money to work. So that's it.
Oh, hi. Hi, I'm Beth Gingold. I'm the CEO of Recycle Leaders, and I just wanted to share that I'm a sub on a grant to Ward 8 Woods from the DC Department of the Environment. And part of this grant is designed to help address some of the questions that came up, and I wish she was still here because we're going to be working on neighborhood scale litter prevention, litter cleanup, but also how do we prevent the litter. And so we've done a selection process of litter surveys. We're working with 6 neighborhoods, and the question for all of you is, how can you help bring your expertise to this project? Part of it is going to be working with elementary schools in those neighborhoods. Ward 8 Woods is in charge of that main outreach, and I'll be working on doing action projects, designing an action project for high school students. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that, and if anybody would like to connect with that project, we're really, really excited that we didn't get our funding entirely cut. So DOE has had a very tough year this year with having to defend budget, and even though, so we're still going to be able to go forward with this project. We're so thankful for that. So please let me know if you're interested in connecting on the Ward 8 Woods' DC Trash Free Communities grant. Thank you.
There's a question up top.
Hi. Actually, it's a compliment. I want to give high praises to DC Water because you guys are awesome. You ladies and gents are awesome. And whenever we're having a problem, we call the emergency line. Y'all come right out and resolve the issue immediately. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Other thing is, if someone had water damage, do you guys provide any assistance with that the insurance is not covering?
So if there's specific water damage to a property, we actually have an entire website that kind of walks you through the process. If you go to our website and search for risk, does Tanya happen to be in the room? I can't really see people, but if you go to our website and search for risk, it'll bring you to the page that walks through the steps to take to get any either insurance or however that claim process might play out.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Montague Jr. I'm the president of the Woodridge Civic Association in Ward 5. Ms. Conti, I wanted to pat you on the back for the RiverSmart programs in our local neighborhood, protection of Upper Hickey Run, and our stormwater management at Langdon, which works most of the part. There was an issue with rodents in one particular area of it. But I live in an area of what's called high flow. We have a very high water table. And what we find out is that some of these programs, they offer short-term solutions, but they really don't address the long-term issue, okay? Trees are fine. I'm a beneficiary of the free tree. I'm a beneficiary of some of these other RiverSmart and this, that, and the other. But there are immediate needs which result from ongoing natural occurrences. Underground streams that were exposed 100 years ago but now are buried, or runoff which has been redirected from Rhode Island Avenue. I really take exception, this is not personal, to the suggestion that the tunnel thing solved the issue at Rhode Island Avenue. That is an issue. It has solved an issue in 2 particular areas. It didn't, we pay for it, but the rest of us are not benefiting from it, all right? Now, the question is, are there plans? I know we keep saying that there's no money. Budgets get cut and this, that, and the other. But there's got to be a way. I keep hearing advocacy for children and this, that, and the other. There has to be since we're all enlightened people, there's got to be a way to connect these things to cause them to be prioritized into budgetary actions. Are you all thinking in that direction? Can you offer us in Woodridge, North Woodridge, Sherwood, Langdon, Gateway? Those communities have water problems, and they don't seem to rise to the point of the water summit. What can you all offer for that?
I will give time for the advocates on the panel to think of a strong response. But one thing I've been thinking of as some of these questions have come up is, oh, you know, this isn't being prioritized, this isn't being funded. And what you just touched on reminded me of there's direct connections between heat and mental health, lead in water and developmental problems. So I think that might be a stronger connection to make in terms of addressing the issues that do get funding and do get priority, like violence in our community, and making sure to tie those things together so that the other things are prioritized along with those.
I'll just add as well, education. I think, again, working with mayors in the Mississippi River, a lot of them don't even know and understand the importance of the Mississippi River. They kind of have this elusive understanding of the value, but a lot of our elected leaders don't get it. They don't get voted into office to protect our water resources, to provide safe drinking water. Sometimes it does happen, but it's not why they're put into office to begin with. So some of it, to me, is actually, and I know this has been a theme, is education. And the second point I'll make is, and this doesn't help today, so I do understand that, but thinking proactively. We tend to be very reactionary, so there's a crisis, we respond, our memory is kind of short, it's like Flint, right? It kind of pops up and down into the news, but we've forgotten. Flint hasn't been resolved, those communities are still at risk. But it was a crisis, it got a lot of attention, it did spark significant change across our country, but we haven't finished that work. And so that reactionary issue is also the fact that it's a crisis, that's like right in your face and that it disappears. And so some of that is up to us, unfortunately, and not just the government, but we have to keep it in their face. If you want your elected leaders to deal with it, they have to know the only reason they're gonna get voted back into office is because they're hearing it from you. And this is what I hear from the mayors that we're working with. And it was surprising, because it's not like we don't know this, but they have to hear from you. They have to know that this is a reason or something that you care about and that you want it changed, and you're willing to bring people together to either vote them out or vote them in based on that issue. So.
Oh, sorry, real quick, just so we know we have about a minute. If you have a lunch ticket, you can just take your lunch ticket with you to the cafeteria, but it's our 2 o'clock lunchtime, just so you know. Yep. Up and to the left. Yes, ma'am. Up the stairs to the left. All right, anyone else?
Jason, there was one other question.
Okay.
No. Hi, it's to the water. I'm in Ward 7, and one of the things I don't think anyone's ever talked about, and I brought it to their attention a couple of times, is many of us in Ward 7 have sump pumps. Our houses are built, as the gentleman said, on a stream, and that stream is rising, and we're getting more water, and our sump pumps are running. I'm on my 4th sump pump, and it's running for hours. It could run for hours to pump the water out. That's increasing my electric bill. The water, so I want to know, is there anything that the city does? They talk about the impedance with water's going into the ground around my house. It's increasing my electric bill, and the water is going into the sewage system, which is increasing my sewage bill. So has anyone ever looked into the problem that we're having with our sump pumps and living on top of springs? Thank you.
From a DC water perspective, given that it's a property specific, I'd be happy to chat with you afterward. I think that's probably the best thing. If I'll just pop up right after we're done, since we're almost done here.
So I just want to thank all the panelists and everyone in the crowd today for giving fantastic questions and making this a lively conversation. All right, and if you have any questions, come up and find everyone afterwards, and we'll field any questions that you have. So thank you very much.